Buckleys that you administer to yourself, your children, and I doubt that you're going to give me a teaspoon or two now that you've spent $24. So you're going to economize on your use of Buckleys. So a high price does that. It forces you to economize. It also means that someone like Butterfield and Vallis, that's a reward for finding the Buckleys, which is difficult to get nowadays. You say that the Canadians are no longer making it, and they have to go through a roundabout way to get the Buckleys to Bermuda. And I suppose that high price is a reward for some of these professionals on the stage to go through that trouble, because we can't force these people to bring in food. Again, people respond to incentives. And I suppose that's one thing we always have to keep in mind as shoppers, that the only way we're going to get food to this most isolated place, and I was looking at Google Earth before I came in, and you know, there's this little dot 700 miles out in the ocean. There ain't nothing close, and you got to wonder, how do you get a bottle of Buckleys out into the middle of the ocean? You know, I once imported a couch from Canada, from Toronto, beautifully upholstered couch, wonderfully priced, but it cost me more to ship the couch from Toronto to Bermuda. You know, when I went into a shop downtown, I was a little angry because I thought that I could beat the retailers, and I couldn't. Again, people respond to incentives. Had I known better, I would have gone to a local store and bought my leather couch. So that's the first thing. Prices, they're signals. And because we live in this very isolated place, it's going to be expensive getting anything here. The other thing I noticed, there's a graphic that I wanted to bring but couldn't. It's of Bermuda from 1612 to the present day. And one thing that's striking is the decline in arable land, which makes me think, okay, I heard somebody over there mention local farming. Great. I mean, we definitely need local farming. We need to push production. But subsidizing production like the Americans do, or subsidizing production like the Europeans do, is not going to work, because what that tends to do is to make farmers rich. And in the US, when you think about farmers, don't think about some guy from Green Acres. Maybe I'm dating myself. Remember that show? There are no young people here tonight anyway. Farmers today in the US tend to, and in Europe, are wealthy people. They're not poor people. And so if we're interested in helping poor people, or what I want to call non-rich people, we've got to be creative. Growing our own food is one such way, but there's a hell of a lot of food that we have to produce in Bermuda on a daily basis to keep us all fed. And so we rely on some of these gentlemen on the stage to find ways of getting that food here. You know, we made a commitment many years ago when we dug up all of our gardens and put condos, homes, hotels. We essentially committed to having people bring our food in. And now this is being recorded, isn't it? What the heck? We're screwed. And so we've got to find food from the outside. We can grow some of it. And I don't know whether people have talked about hydroponic farming, some of these sort of high-tech solutions. You know, imagine a building, a 10 or 20-story building in downtown Hamilton, growing stuff hydroponically, no soil. You know, maybe that's some place we're going to have to go, but it's going to take an individual. If I'm going to do it, rest assured, I won't be doing it for charity. I'll be doing it because I think I can make a buck. Just as Mr. Butterfield and Mr. Vallis are only going to bring in Buckleys or Carnation or my favorite Cottonelle's toilet paper if they're going to make a profit. And that's the difficult part about doing business in Bermuda, especially the food business. One of the most isolated places on the planet. Land is extremely scarce and expensive. And if I got to think about, do I put a condominium on my property or do I farm it? We know what the answer to that question is right now. It's, I'm going to put a condominium on it. And so we've got ourselves in this unfortunate position. You know, it's a shame we didn't think about it 30, or 300 years ago that we're going to set aside so much land for farming, but we didn't. And so, we're having to rely on the market. Now, I don't know whether we've discussed the role that the government can play, whether it should be a subsidy to growers, or whether we come up with a definition for what constitutes necessities. Because really, what is a necessity? For me, a necessity is a cup of espresso coffee. I have to have it every day. But I don't know that I would want the taxpayer to be paying for my espresso coffee. If I want coffee, maybe the necessity version of it would be some generic brand. How do we define a necessity? And then if you're into a healthy diet, necessities become very expensive. Yeah? So I'm sure the Price Commission is in a difficult position because, well, how do we get around this problem of not enough food and all of these mouths? I'm sorry that I can't come to you with solutions. One of the best solutions I can give you is to allow the market to do its thing. We're looking at water. Water prices are going to continue to rise. Yeah? We're consuming far more water than we produce. Water right now is as expensive, if not more expensive than gasoline, and it will continue to rise because we haven't quite figured out how to make water. Pure water in those, what is it, 5-gallon bottles? How much is that? $8, $9, $10 for one of those? $12. Okay. That's close to the real cost of water. So we have to be really, really careful. Our ancestors were very careful about it. And in fact, they were able to live within what the environment gave them. We're not very good at that with our swimming pools and our jacuzzis, our long showers. It's really about figuring out how to live within our means. If we're not going to live within our means, someone's going to have to create a reverse osmosis plant. And if I build a reverse osmosis plant, it's going to be profitable, which means I'm going to charge you an arm and a leg for that water. Yeah? So in many of our discussions of price and price control, we've always got to look at the other side. Because those gentlemen on the stage, we can't force them to bring in food. If they choose to pack up and go to Costa Rica and chill for the rest of their lives, we've got to find someone, hope that someone picks up the mantle and begins to do that highly specialized task, because I haven't a clue. And one thing I know for sure, you don't want to get a government involved in this. Governments aren't exactly cost efficient. Yeah? I hope you know what I mean by that. Okay.
We understand.
So in many ways, the best people to bring in food are those two gentlemen in the center. I don't like their prices, I'm going to tell you straight up. When I go in the grocery store and I have to buy my, strawberries and blueberries and carrots and stuff, and a good bottle of Merlot, and I get to the counter, and they tell me it's like $80 or something and there's only one bag, I'm pissed. Yeah? But then I think about the alternative. Well, what is the alternative? We don't have one. But having said that, I think if we think long and hard about it, there's got to be ways to get necessities, basic stuff, generic brand things into the island at a lower price, perhaps with zero duties, maybe with some kind of a basic subsidy. But then we got the problem of we got to make sure that poor people get it. I don't know if there are any poor people here tonight. Yeah? I mean, there might be non-rich people here tonight, but I don't know if there are really any poor people here tonight. And so we've got to think about that particular group if we're going to subsidize necessities. Hope I've given you a little bit to think about. I'm better at answering questions than talking. So if you have one for me, please let me have it.
Well, I am mindful of time. I'm going to try to, I don't like doing this, by the way, and I hate when others do it. But we're going to try to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so. And we have to speak as a commission that we might try to, I'm going to look to Ms. Peniston as our chair, though. We may try to do this, I guess, in the east and the west to give others a chance to come and talk to us also. But I think we do have, I'm sure we have a couple of questions as well. Smith? Someone's behind you first, sorry. Would you like to talk shows? Let those who have not asked the question ask first.
It's a response.
Of course.
It's a response. I'm here, this is what I heard, that basically we are now still at the mercy of these gentlemen who are, that's what I heard. That's what I heard.
As I'm sure others of us have heard, what they said is one thing, what you hear is another.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard.
And what I would say, actually, from this point of view, is that what I heard is not that we're at the mercy of them, is that we have to think more about our choice. That's what I heard.
Right, okay, the choice. And to answer also Ms. Fleming's question, no, those times when I saw the mayonnaise, I didn't buy it. I waited until I saw it on sale.
Good.
That's why it's in my refrigerator now.
Okay. There's a question? Come to you.
That's true, too.
Go ahead.
Out of date.
Good evening, Mr. Richardson. Good evening to your panel. Tonight's been quite insightful, and one of the things I gathered from one of the panelists is we have to obviously make sound choices, and obviously there comes a point where things, if they are too expensive, we have to decide, do we still want it? But something that's been overlooked that I want to throw out to the people in the audience that I'm very grateful for is the fact that we have local companies who give back to the community, and nobody's stated that. And I'm talking about the amount of times that schools and different sporting clubs come to Lindo's, Bottle Wind Valleys, and the marketplace, because I know as an educator, we've often gone to these people and they've always said yes. And I want to thank you for that, because obviously with your profit, you're not just keeping it and traveling the world, you are giving back to the community. So thank you very much. But of course, the consumer is very aware of certain things, such as everybody's got their strawberries or mayonnaise. One of mine is codfish, and with Good Friday coming up, it'll be interesting to see where the price of codfish goes, because you know the Bermudas are going to want their codfish and fish cakes. But I'm not going to belabor this, but one of the other products that I think is quite interesting that doesn't have a transportation cost is local fish. And I will say that I'm very surprised that it's basically supply and demand. If there's a high demand, the prices are going to go up. I'm really surprised that your local fish actually sells in the stores, because that's one of the items that I feel is quite high. And personally, I do shop, well, my wife does the shopping, but for the local fish, I do buy it off the street, because I just find that's an item that I think is marked up more than it should be. And perhaps you may need to just tell your fish suppliers, local fish suppliers, they may need to drop their prices, because obviously you're going to earn the markup based on what they give it to you at.
Okay, thank you.
May I just say, if you
so my question is about the local fish prices.
Well, may I say if you, on the local fish question, now I understand that you go on the road and buy local fish.
Right.
During the summer they don't have maybe a little bit of ice, they don't pay any license, they don't pay anything.
Right.
In the supermarket, you have to have refrigeration, you have ice. They have the palmaris on our back all the time, which is very good.
Right.
We make sure that everything is cold, ice is there, always kept in the refrigeration. It's not coming out of the water, going in one of those container tub, and then the ice melt, the fish is in the water there. No, that's why we had to pay more. That's why probably the fish is, the fisherman wants to make money. We had to make a profit somehow. We had to pay for electricity, so that's why it's higher.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take, I guess, these last three questions, if that's okay. Oh, no, now we have a fourth one. You take four. Yeah.
Good evening, I'm a senior. I see a lot of carrots in Bermuda. Are they Bermuda carrots? That's the question I'd like to ask. Are they on an embargo, or are they Bermuda carrots?
Okay.
Yes.
That's the only question, or another question, that's it?
I also would like to know how I could go to one marketplace store and buy an item for a certain amount of money, and go to a next marketplace store, the same item is a different price.
Yes.
Well, I just don't understand,
It's called technology.
I can ask you, and I can answer you the first question. Carrots are on permanent embargo. We are not allowed to bring in carrots, fresh carrots. Now maybe they talk about it that if the local carrots are scarce in October, November, we might be able to bring them in. But the government, they have to legislate that. But I think we might be able from now on, just for about a month or two. But otherwise, only local carrots are going to be sold in the stores.
$6 a bag for local carrots?
Now, you can explain to me, if you can, I could buy a bag of potatoes from Canada for $25, we say. I buy local potatoes, 50 pounds as well, for $38 here in Bermuda. The farmers are charging higher price because they say the hourly wages are higher here than in Canada.
Okay.
So I'm speaking of Bermuda right here. We have carrots. I see them all on the street. I see farmers selling them, and you go to the marketplace or any of the other grocery stores, and they are $6 a bag for us. But one thing I would say, some of the stores, I would go in there and I'll find a little package that is suited for the seniors where they cut up some carrots and some other vegetables. That's one thing I do appreciate.
Okay.
Because a big bag of carrots for one person, Bermuda carrots.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Sir?
Good evening, panelists. I just have a quick, one question tonight. Time is late. Expiration dates on products seem to be very short here in Bermuda compared to when I look at items away. They have like years, and I pick up an item here, like, and the expiration is the end of the month. If somebody could explain that, thanks.
Okay. Ma'am?
Good evening, panel. I just want to make a statement of, I'm not sure if it's fact or what, but I consider myself a representative of poor people. I'm not sure if I'm considered poor or not. But I rushed to get here. I had another meeting to go to, which was actually real important, but I'm sorry that I missed the heart of it. Sure. But I also feel the pulse of it, and I see, and just to the masses here, that the power that we give to the people on the panel, Mr. Giorgio, I honor you because you helped to give us surplus for our ministry, my husband and I, and I'm not sure, Mr. Butterfield.
Susan.
But I want to make a statement meaning this. We should feel privileged that we're in Bermuda, and I make this statement jokingly to the people who I serve. The dollar store came to Bermuda, and it opened up its doors and started selling at $2. And it's now $2.50, and in a minute it'll be $3. I think that we are a high-end island. We have been since piracy. And so from my point of view as a grassroots advocate, what I'm going to take back to the poor people is to say that we must network together. There is no more co-op. I'm ready to bring in a container ship of just toilet paper and sell it at 50 cents to the Poor People's Club, because what was Scott's brand toilet paper, I discovered it would last longer in my family, was 60 cents, is now $1.30. I can get it $2.50 at the $2 store if they decide to put it around there. And so again, I speak on behalf of the grassroots people, non-rich, poor, and I know what my job is, and it's to go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people put $5 together, buy a bale of potatoes, separate it, and to the people like Mr. Giorgio, when I come down with my grocery voucher, it's royal expensive compared to even Marketplace, but I know Marketplace is a chain store. Ask not what my country can do for me, but what I can do for my country. I have a lot more to say, but I'm going to do that and run my race. And I am going to encourage the grassroots people who actually do not fit in this arena, and I don't say that without respect. But what we came from in old days, I ran out of toilet paper. I went to my neighbor and asked if you had toilet paper. She gave me toilet paper. I sent her ginger ale. Now it's no more onions and tomatoes. We made it that way. 14 children they had then. I don't think life is any more expensive. It's just that we are disconnected. So I'd like to see more of these type of forums because people need to vent. They need to have hope. My hope is that I know what my job is, and I can say I'm going from the half full, half empty mode to I don't see any real need for this type of thing, but it definitely is because we haven't had it, and people need to know that if I can afford, I've been without lights and running water for 2006. People say, well, you should be able to have money saved up. Well, I have what they call, from my family history, is family that suffers from depression. So I only can work seasonal, and I do the best I can as a born-again believer. So I understand who I am. I don't have to be labeled as lazy, no good anymore. I am a worker. I've always worked. So I am going to go and encourage the people who have been diagnosed. Some are lazy, but they still need to be encouraged. And when you have to pay $1 for an apple, if you have high blood pressure or diabetes or kidney failure, the produce section is the only place that we really need to be functioning from. I eat from the soup kitchens. They get Kentucky Fried Chicken. The vegetables are salty. I hear young men say they're diabetic. They don't have a choice. But again, I say to the policymakers, keep doing the best you can. We are a godly nation. We need to have a heart of God with your business. We can do that. But we must keep hope alive. And so I think we need to just do what we used to do that work.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And you, ma'am, have the honor of being the last question poser.
Okay, good evening. I'm curious as to how does waste factor into, how does it impact what the consumer has to pay in terms of your absorbing the waste? And that goes to the expiry dates issue as well. So that's one question. I would really be interested if they would consider reducing prices on essential nutritious foods and increasing prices on the non-nutritious junk food once we've determined what those are. I think it's fairly easy, but I'm not really for imposing things on people, but I think if we're in this crunch and we need to get healthy, nutritious food to be more affordable for people, then I would welcome taxing heavily junk food, cigarettes, alcohol. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. We've had a few questions, I guess, toward the end. And what I would like to do is emphasize concise, first of all, but to give the panelists a chance to give a final concise comment. And if there is one question that you want to answer, then feel free to do so. And believe it or not, Mr. Simmons, I give you the first option to give a concise final comment. Mike's right behind you.
A concise final comment.
For today, we're going to try to do it again. So yeah, for today.
Okay. You spoke about waste, and I think this is where we need people to sort of really take a very close look at the market for food, because there is significant waste. And I know in the supermarkets there's a certain standard that's needed to command, say, a $5 a bag price for carrots. What happens to those carrots that are damaged? What happens to the fruit that is damaged? Can that not make it into, say, a secondary market at a reduced price? That's one possible idea. You also mentioned taxing foods that aren't good for you. A lot of regulation. Unfortunately, the stuff that's bad for you is full of salt and sugar, so it will last forever, which makes it relatively inexpensive. The stuff that's good for you doesn't last very long, so there's a big risk associated with bringing it in. That's why it is expensive. So that's two things. Is that good enough?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Riley?
Good evening again. My job has been relatively easy tonight. I think my closing remarks would be one from a period before children. That is when I see, and I notice the helmets prices as well. When I see things like that happen, I exercise my right of choice and I don't buy. So the power is in choice.
Thank you. Ms. Fleming?
That was going to be my closing statement. But I guess I'd also like to say that we hear the call for a look at this issue, and the answers are multiple answers, and they start with everyone in the room in whatever position that you have, whether it be consumer or whether it be provider of goods as well. So I would encourage people to continue to come to the table to come to a solution. It may not be price controls, but there are things that we can do. And to the lady that spoke about the gardens, there is a statistic that shows that during the times of recessions, people actually make healthier food choices and tend to live healthier. So there are advantages to the position that we find ourselves in, and we should try to take hold of those advantages and spend our dollar in ways that will help us.
Thank you, Ms. Fleming. Mr. Souza?
Thank you. Just a comment, this gentleman or lady who asked about expiry dates and waste, and I think a lot of that boils down to inventory management. And I think in the distribution change, we've seen significant improvements over the years. And the more efficient we can be, the better we can manage that. There was the lady, Ms. Williams, with Hellman's mayonnaise. I don't want to belabor it. It's a Butterfield and Vallis product. I'll see you afterwards, get your number, and I'll look into it.
Give you a discount.
No discount. No discounts tonight. But just, to give you a feeling for how we're surviving through the recession, Butterfield and Vallis for the past 3 years, our profit margin has been reduced. So we're feeling it as well. We're not crying, but we're saying it's all the way through. So we make sacrifices. We work a lot harder to try and get your business than we used to before, because now, as we said earlier, the market's shrinking. And there was a gentleman who made a comment about the generosity of Butterfield and Vallis, and it would probably be remiss of me not to say that one of the driving forces behind that generosity is sitting in that room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Zanon?
Okay, just to answer the last questions. We do have different markup, and like baby formula, baby food, can be very low because we understand there are single mothers that need baby food. And then of course produce is a higher markup because it's a lot of waste. We give the apples and whatever we cannot use away to different people. The apples may be even for horses. But anyhow, the main thing we're going to say is that anything a little outdated but still good, it's not good to, I tell you, it's not good to sell for half price. We did it probably 20, 30 years ago. And what happened, we found people came in, take a quite good can of soup, dented on purpose on the shelf, and coming to us saying, oh, this is dented, can I have half price? So we would rather take all those items, and I mean a lot cases, because Butterfield and Vallis and other company, they may give us some credit, they do give us some credit. If we give it away to the Salvation Army, to churches, to Camp Hope, so we give all the stuff away. And it was at one point the Salvation Army told us that without the 2 windows, they would close down the soup kitchen, they wouldn't have enough food. So this amount of waste, but we give it away to good use. So that's to answer the last caller.
Okay, thank you. And our chair, Ms. Peniston.
Well, one of our main objectives from the side of the Price Control Commission was to gather more information for our final report, and that objective has definitely been achieved. I've been taking a lot of notes, and I thank you for all your comments and suggestions, and definitely look for more forums to take place in the future, so keep a lookout for that advertising, and please join us again so that we can get some more of this discussion going. Thank you.
And I'll just give a quick, 2 very quick things. One is someone talked about going to the marketplace, for example, and finding different prices for on the same shelf. It does come down to technology in terms of how fast can you change the prices. That's something that we learned during this process. And for everybody, the Minister of Finance did give a comment which was reported in the paper on, I think it was on Saturday, and I want to just refer briefly to her comment in a concise way. it talks about cost containment and Bermuda's free market economy. And it goes something like this. The Commission's discussions about cost containment consistently indicated that both wholesale consistent profit, however small, to be made. They opined, their opinion was that if prices were fixed and they were unable to make a reasonable profit, they would simply stop stocking the item, which would have a negative impact on consumers. Some hinted that the ultimate result might be shrinking profits and job losses. And so I said that to say that the Premier has already said that that's not something she'll be putting in place in terms of fixed prices. And so our job now is to take what you've done, what you've given us tonight, plus other stakeholders, and put that together in a report which would hopefully recommend some practical solutions that the government will consider putting into place. But on behalf of the Commission, certainly on behalf of the entire panel tonight, this has been a very interesting opportunity for me to learn different things and to be exposed to different concepts. And I trust that we'll be able to have your support as we do, I'm assuming, at least two others, one in the East and one in the West, before we get to the stage of finalizing our report back to the Ministry of Finance. I also want to commend you for coming out tonight and for staying for the duration and for asking lots and lots of interesting and thought-provoking questions.